Stop raining.
Yeah. Remove Kyle. Give us a 2-shot here. There we go. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Hey, everybody. It's MarTech Live. We're back. We're still doing it. Forgot to change my shirt. I meant to go change my shirt. Big fail. It's a Friday, though. It's casual Friday, though, right, Mike?
It's Friday. It's the summer. It's, we're vibe recording.
We're vibe recording.
Vibe broadcasting, I guess.
That's what this all comes down to now, right? It's vibe everything, which I think is actually kind of true, right?
Yeah. And I think one of the first things that we're going to talk about today is an article about vibe coding.
Oh, all right. That's awesome. Here,
I'm just going to, let me get it up here.
You think I read this morning? I was at the doctor, which was super fun.
All right. See, I did that yesterday, which was not a work day. So
nice.
I sacrificed part of my.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get where I need to be here. All right. So the article we're going to discuss is from Melissa Reeve, coincidentally, the latest guest on the latest episode of your podcast. So Melissa is very much into AI as a marketer. And so we're going to take a look at her article. So what Melissa did was she decided she was going to use AI to vibe code a landing page that she was working on for a client. And she rounded up the lessons that she learned to kind of sum it up, maybe not surprisingly. Let me get the title in here. Here we go. It got her about 70% of the way there, which is pretty good because AI doesn't get writer's block. So you can kind of keep prompting it and kind of, doing things that sometimes it's really hard to do with your brain if you're trying to get started with something and you feel like you're stuck. So Melissa walks us through, what she was able to do. She was using a tool called Lovable, which kind of charges by the prompt to do coding. And she used 2 LLMs. She used Claude and she used Chat GPT and kind of explained what she was trying to do for a client. And at the end of the day, helped her with the copywriting, helped her with kind of basic coding. This is her right here is kind of her big prompt that she gave it. So then she could put that into Lovable because Lovable charges by the prompt. She didn't want to be prompting Lovable. So she did the work in the other LLMs and then, came up with this bigger prompt to give to Lovable. And, it wasn't ready for prime time at the end of the day, but like she wasn't expecting it to be ready for prime time. But so, where it shined, where it fell short, speed is where it shined. She didn't, she says, I didn't get stuck staring at a blank screen, agonizing over placeholder copy, or losing hours debating font sizes. So it gave her the momentum. It gave her the kickstart. It gave her a starting point. And like I said, she felt it got 70% of the work done. And that left 30% to her to kind of shape, refine, delete. But, think about an hour or 2 of your time. Getting help with 70% of something is a big help. So she's also got recommendations, right? It's not going to do your job for you. But it was a contributor. It was like having a junior person, I guess I would say. You've done a lot of work with coding and AI, Mark. Like, what's your experience here?
Yeah, I thought this article was really great. I think my one comment was I wanted to see, I guess it was a client, so she couldn't really see a screenshot or something like that. I kind of wanted to see visually what she generated. But I do think that the entire process she went through is super familiar to me at this point. And I think we're going to see more and more of this. Lovable's great. Replic's great. Cursor's great. There's a bunch of these things out. I think I don't know. Did we report on the Base 44 story? They sold to Wix for 80 million bucks or something like that. Did you see that?
No, no.
Yeah. Base 44 comes out of nowhere. I don't know. I don't know when they started this company, but they sold to Wix. Interestingly enough, it's a little Base 44 is a little bit more narrow. It includes everything, including like your email delivery and your hosting, which Lovable I think Lovable doesn't. I think you have to actually either grab the code and put it somewhere else or push it to some other hosting platform. But I mean, what she went through here is I think pretty common at this point, and I think anybody who thinks that these things are going to create 100% ready to go out of the box, probably not really looking at the tools properly, but as an accelerant, kind of remarkable. I mean, you really think about how people with like no coding skill and very little design skill can, I mean, even go take a screenshot of your favorite website and go make me one like this. I think I vibe coded Mart. I don't know if I have a screenshot of the way I share it. I had MarTech as Netflix. Like I was literally like, here's our MarTech homepage, make it look like Netflix. And it did a remarkably good job with halfway decent code that a coder could have fixed up. So yeah, this is what's going down, and this is what's happening right now. I think you're going to see massive productivity gains from kind of non-technical people. I'm drawing a parallel in my head right now as I'm talking, thinking about Scott Brinker's citizen developers, and this is that. I think there's just an immense amount of stuff and opportunity here. So this was cool. I'm happy that she wrote this article, and yeah, she was great on the podcast. Really enjoyed talking to her about her book and what she's up to with AI. She's definitely in the advanced camp, which is fun.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to keep seeing people who are using multiple LLMs in these projects, or is it going to solidify around? I feel like, a lot of this stuff solidifies around one tool, one brand. You see how Google came to dominance,
Yeah.
right?
What do I think? I think that right now it's preference, right? Preference based. Like I do like the way Claude works. So a lot of times I'll start with, go for a walk, outline an article, get it in a Claude, get kind of an early draft, and then kind of refine it with deep research or vice versa. Actually, deep research first, then Claude, and then back to. I'm definitely using multiple LLMs. I think that in the future you'll be able to link them all, so that'd be one chat interface, and you can kind of talk to build your agentic process. So your workflow can work through whatever LLMs you want to work through. I don't know how long it's going to matter, right? I mean, GPT-5 is probably going to be way better than Claude 4, and then Claude 6 will be better. Like, I don't know that ends or if it just all becomes commoditized at some point, but there is utility right now in kind of bouncing between apps, but I think it's personal preference. I tend to stick with ChatGPT for the most part at this point. But I do have API access, so I've been building my own kind of like back end thing. Maybe we can show that later. One of the things I've been building is kind of fun. Yeah.
Speaking of citizen developers, I'm just going to go back to the MarTech homepage, call up today's edition of MarTech charts.
Ooh, nice.
Homegrown MarTech tools are making a comeback. This week's chart, actually two charts, two pieces of data from our own surveys. MarTech surveys done 2025, State of Your Stack survey, that's the one on top. And then down below, 2024 MarTech replacement survey. And the difference here is kind of striking. We'll start with 2024. In 2024, fall of 2024, replacement survey comes out. We were basically talking about the extinction of homegrown apps. And you see here, replaced a commercial app with another commercial app, replaced a homegrown with a commercial. A commercial software was sort of run away with the show, run away with the market. And then in 2025, we asked people the new tools and capabilities in your MarTech stack for the next year or two, and homegrown only 25%. So Scott Brinker helped us out with the survey, helped us analyze it at the MarTech conference online in the fall, in the spring rather, and he said this is AI, the ability to code. We were just talking about citizen developers,
There you go.
term that Scott coded, but that's the reality, right? That and then you see smaller companies more likely to pull stuff off the shelf, commercial. Mid-size had a balanced approach, but from almost extinct to almost 25%. Pretty good for the homegrown solutions.
Everything old is new again, right? This build buy discussion. I'm old enough to remember the first couple of rounds build buy. Um, it's kind of amazing, actually, kind of funny in a way that it's back to this. I mean, it's hard to imagine the pendulum ever swing back, but boy, this between this and the open source movement, I think you've got enormously powerful access to enormously powerful tools, and because the complexity of building is dropping pretty rapidly, you really start to wonder. These I think these surveys we very well may see really different results next year in this.
Yeah, and I think the key here is the natural language engagement and coding, and not having to really understand code just to be able to clearly explain what you're trying to do.
Have you built anything, Mike? Like have you vibe coded anything at this point?
No, I haven't. It's kind of my next. I've done the custom GPTs. It's sort of my next frontier.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. I am amateur at best coder. HTML, Java, some JavaScript, CSS. That's the extent that I ever got to. But I'm watching what's happening, and I'm building. I built a calculator, built a bunch of calculators for thirdromedia.com, built a bunch of like different assets. And now with Claude artifacts, you can actually build fully functional, shareable apps. Like it's pretty wild. It's almost like the code. It used to be the code was first, and now the code is second. I think it's just flipped. Like the balance is flipped, and that's not to say like good code's still worth its weight in gold, and security issues notwithstanding, because they shouldn't be notwithstanding. But like all of the stuff that you have to do anyway is important. But especially for internal apps where they're not external, right? The ability for, let's say, a finance person to vibe code some incredible new way to connect all of the different spreadsheets, and produce reports, in real time, stream data through Looker. Like we're in kind of a golden age of build. I think citizen developership is not just here. It's arrived in a big way. It's going to continue to expand. It's going to be interesting.
I've got one more MarTech article that I wanted to look at.
All right, let's do it.
This is Vanity Metrics.
Oh, another great. Yeah, this is great. I really enjoyed. This was great. Who wrote this one? You did,
I did.
right?
I did.
Yeah, I love this article. I was reading it. I was at the doctor, like I said this morning. I was waiting in the waiting room, and I read this article. I thought it was great.
No, so let's start with the AI artwork.
Yeah, let's do it.
Talking to Khan, managing editor of MarTech, the other morning at our morning meeting, and talking about vanity metrics, how we had kind of internally had this on our project sheet as burn the vanity metrics or something, and then I occurred to me the 1980s novel Bonfire of the Vanities. Great book. I don't think I ever read it, but well reviewed. The music, the movie was not so well reviewed, but I remember the movie because one scene was shot in my hometown. But I went to ChatGPT, I believe it was, and I said I wanted you to take the Bonfire of the Vanities movie poster, and I want you to replace it with marketers, which I think 2/3 of the folks in the in the picture look like they're dressed for marketing, and to put some vanity metrics in it and change the title. And so that's what we got: Bonfire of the Vanity Metrics. But more importantly, we go through this. We do 7 vanity metrics and then 7 replacements. And what struck me when I was putting this together was how a lot of the vanity metrics are based on volume. And later today, I'm giving a talk to a marketing group. One of the things we're going to talk about is how AI has changed go to market motions and go to market strategy. And, I'm reading around, doing research, reading some of Mark Stus's stuff on this. Go to market and B2B, very, very grounded in volume, more page views, more visitors, more blog posts that are published, more webcasts, more content syndication. The problem with that is that the volume, what's really important, if you look at here, what the replacement metrics, right? Conversion. And then even down here, I think it's social media leads and conversions. People fell in love with the numbers, right? Here, look at the traffic going up. But how much of that traffic was the right audience, the right people? How many of them were ready to buy, ready to have a discussion to move towards buying. And even the same with email open rates, right? And when you look at the suggested replacement for email open rates, again, conversion rates. So I think one of the things that the kind of upheaval in go to market is bringing is a focus on conversions, like who were the right people and what they did, and not the volume. Um, so I've seen people who have declared inbound to be dead. I've seen people who have declared top of the funnel to be dead. The metrics here, the replacement metrics, they're all looking at like more bottom of the funnel, who converted, and that it's not volume, it's the quality, which is something we've heard about, especially in like when you talk about email lists. We've heard about this for years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, we talked last week at SMX about, and I've got the article like kind of partially written, and I know people are dying to read it. I got to find some time, but the whole Don Draper is back, the reanimation of Don Draper and brand. It's funny, right? I mean, ultimately, it is all about conversions, but this obsession with these metrics that we claim lead to conversions still ignore the thing that we know about humans, which were messy, and the buying journey is weird and disconnected, and we want to live in this like clean room data world where everything is like super linear, and it's just not true. Like I don't know how it is to say it, but it's not true. So I think the vanity of these metrics is apropos for the vanity of the bonfire graphic. I think but like we're all weaned on this stuff, or we're all addicted to this. So like page views, open rates. Like for years now, open rates have really not meant much relative to performance. Page views, like bounce rate. A couple of years ago, I realized bounce rate was sort of like an incomplete stat if you don't look at it carefully. So we're all obsessed with like we want numbers that tell us how we're doing, and that makes sense, very human. But at the same
So why do
time,
you think that bounce rate is incomplete?
I'm trying to. As soon as I open my mouth, I'm like, shit. I'm gonna have to now say why I think it's how it's measured. Because I'll have to find the article. It's basically like it's missing something, so it's kind of giving you a false sense of like we all say, oh, bounce rate's this perfect measure. But again, that's the problem with vanity metrics is none of these things are perfect measure. You look at open rates and you go, well, how much of that is bots, or how much of that the funny thing about open rates. I'll digress quickly for all our email people out there. Like the way open rates work is there's an invisible pixel that no humans can see in the email template, and when it loads, that's one open. So if you're using Outlook and you keep loading the image or loading the email as you scroll through the email, that's one open, two opens, three opens, four opens. Like you have no way of knowing if that's an actual open or read on an individual basis. So it's truly a vanity metric. It's not that it's not useful; it's just a vanity metric. Bounce rate, same thing. It's telling you something that you want it to be, but it's not actually accurate. I'll have to go find the article.
No.
But like this is a really big problem. I talked to a guy yesterday. He runs an attribute. He might actually we might be able to have him on the show or have him on the podcast or something. But he runs an attribution kind of training company, helping people understand attribution, which I thought was really funny. And when I kind of dug into it with him, it's like they're having a lot of success with like D2C type, e-commerce click. But admittedly, he's like, yeah, like anything more complex than a direct thing it gets very complex very fast. And there's all these metrics that we want to apply, MQLs, SQLs, all of it. And we all know it's not really working great. I guess the question is what's the opposite version of this article, Mike? Like what are the non-vanity metrics that actually matter? Is it just revenue? Is that the one metric that matters?
At the end of the day, it's revenue, right?
Yeah.
But it's never going to be perfect. I think the sort of measurement ideas that came with performance marketing were going to be, well, you'll be able to measure everything and know what's working. But there were a lot of leaps of faith, for lack of a better word, in that data. I'll point out. Also, today on MarTech, it's time to move on from multi-touch attribution from Tom Leonard, which is probably very true. And he talks about the promise and the reality, being clicked obsessed, built on dying data, the same optimization. It tells you some things, right? And he has a list of the things it can tell you. But this is a lot of the stuff we were talking about. The comfort of familiarity. We trained as marketers, we trained ourselves, and maybe more dangerously trained our leadership on this stuff. And I think as things continue to evolve, we're going to have to untrain them, which is going to be just as hard, if not harder, because a lot of these folks who understand a lot of business stuff more than they understand marketing specifically, they're like, wait, you told me this, now you're telling me that, which never looks good. But multi-touch attribution was a great idea in theory, but you just said it a few minutes ago. Humans are messy, and the way they go about doing things and the way they make decisions. The other thing that plays in here today, this conversation is just wow. We've got so much interesting stuff on MarTech right now. Our friends at Gartner who contribute to the site, CFOs want hard numbers, not brand vibes. By Matt Wakeman and Rachel Smith at Gartner. This talks about the brand investments that you were talking about, Don Draper, the return of Don Draper, and the return of brand in the face of, hey, we can't measure everything we have said that we can measure. The CFOs want hard numbers on brand, and that is why people got into performance marketing in the first place. I can't measure brand. I can't tell you how that brand strategy ended up with people making a purchase and giving us revenue. And at the end of the day, a lot of people will tell you the way that people buy, whether it's B2C or B2B, is when I need something, I have 3 brands in mind. And 95% of the time, I'm going to buy from one of those 3 brands. That's hard to measure, right?
Yeah, this is another aspect of the brand story that's emerging. I'm trying to remember his name. Scott Galloway was talking on the Pivot podcast today. I was just listening to it. They're at Con and they did a live broadcast and they were talking about this exact issue. Brand is brand dead. And, you can argue it both ways, but brand is back, right? Whether it was dead in the first place or not, it's back in the limelight. And this article is really, I hadn't seen this one yet, but this article is another spin, which is not only have marketers been weaned off of brand into performance marketing, but CFOs also fall into this as well. Like the modern CFO, whatever the average age is, whatever, has been existing in a performance marketing culture for 15, 20, 25 years, Google ads, PPC campaigns, the rest of it. This is why the Don Draper thing I think is right, and the time is right to sort of revisit, like, before performance marketing existed, in its modern form, when it was just direct mail basically, and you get the Sears catalog. Before it was that, by the way, Mike, I took a course. One of my first advertising courses in college was a direct marketing course, and we had this guy who did infomercials, and I remember in the room everyone was sniggering because it was like, oh, this is like the infomercial king. But I'm certain that guy was worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Did Ron Popeil teach you a class?
It wasn't Ron Popeil, but that would have been amazing. I mean, maybe it was Ron Popeil. I don't know that there's any way for me to find the answer to that. But this guy did infomercials, and I remember thinking, like, that's not the part of advertising that I want to be in. Foolishly said. Regardless of that, I think this article is interesting because it highlights not just the marketing side of how are we going to measure brand, but the CFO side, which is like, wait a minute, you're telling me, it's not a gumball machine. I think Kathleen Schaub somebody's been writing about the gumball machine. Maybe it was John Miller. It was John Miller.
I think Kathleen used the term on our conversations with MarTech episode, which has yet to air, but yeah.
But I think the gumball analogy started with John Miller, the former Marketo guy who invented inbound, is now saying maybe not so much with the inbound. But regardless of that, the CFO perspective here is just as interesting as the marketing perspective. Like, how do you measure? And again, I don't know how many times I've said this in the last couple of weeks, but every time the Super Bowl happens, we all laugh at the dumb ads and how much they spent for those ads. I think you also have to acknowledge that brand, it's never not been important. But again, I think if you focus on the PPC community, for example, not a lot of brand talk, and all of a sudden it's all brand all day long. And how the CFO is going to choose to measure that's really interesting, right? Is the CFO going to accept a 3% increase in unaided awareness? I guess he or she will if it resulted in more revenue. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I think it's really like this is a really complex moment. I think that we're in, and I think marketing, regardless of AI itself, is getting remade.
What's
This is.
what's going on with the PPC reminds me of a place we were at 25 plus years ago with display, where the beauty of display advertising when it first came out on the internet was, unlike a billboard, you can click on it and you could go to your site or go to your landing page and get more info, and you can engage like right away. And newspaper ads and billboards and television commercials at the time did not offer that. And then we pretty quickly realized that nobody wanted to do that on the consumer side, and nobody was clicking. And then the story had to shift to brand. It's building brand awareness, and maybe for somebody who's really really intrigued or really really close to making a decision, they will click. And then you started measuring and selling by the impression instead of like the click. And I feel like with the PPC folks, we've heard this before.
Super interesting. I suspect that we're actually not live, Mike.
Oh,
Something is not hooked up right. LinkedIn is definitely not live. I thought I had checked YouTube, but I don't actually see us live. So if we're not live, we'll just grab clips from this because I don't think that we're live.
okay.
We're gonna have to figure that out. I don't understand. Cool. Any other MarTech news we want to talk about?
We could look at one quick look at the latest AI powered news and releases published every Thursday on MarTech. There's a couple from the June 19th list here. You can get about 3 weeks.
We're live, by the way. We're live on YouTube. I
Okay.
see us. It's weird how it works. I don't really understand why
Okay.
one is. LinkedIn definitely not, as far as I can tell. Anyway, sorry.
All right, down at the bottom here, there were some interesting. This is this week's AI news and releases compiled every Thursday on MarTech. Seismic, which is more of a sales enablement type of play, but where's the part I'm looking for? Here we go. Role play agent, right? Sales training. How many times have sales leaders had to put together like a role playing scenarios, which I think are awkward for everyone involved?
Mm-hmm.
Probably effective if you do them well. It's not my area of expertise, but it creates a feedback loop. But the one problem with it is it's time consuming, and once again, AI as a time saver comes into play. If you have somebody chat with an agent, and then you have the agent summarize how it went, it's gonna save you time. So that's an interesting use of AI. Next one
Funny,
down.
it's funny, Mike. I built that actually for SEMrush. It's being tested now. It's a sales simulator based on sales processes, some product information, and it's ornery too. I programmed the GPT to be like skeptical of whatever the salesperson's saying, so it pushes back pretty hard. It's actually really fun to play with.
And how does it? Is that like a text? Like it pushes back in text? What's the
Yeah,
form?
it's all text right now. I mean, I guess in theory you could rebuild that in HeyGen or some other video thing, but it's text except you can turn audio on, right? Like in ChatGPT, you can just voice chat with it. So I went for a walk the other day and I tried to sell the AI on SEMrush Enterprise software. It was really actually quite fun. Actually, Rick's hyper interactive, like really cool. And then when you're done, you can say to it like, "Hey, stop the simulation. Give me an evaluation," and it will evaluate like a whole bunch of criteria. I think there's some serious power here with these sort of simulations.
Yeah. Telium was the next one that caught my eye. So a couple of things because I saw people on LinkedIn talking about it. Zero copy, which is a term that Salesforce has relied on for quite some time. A few people kind of grumbled that Telium was claiming to have some firsts, and they're like, zero copies been talked about. That's I think is probably a very surface level criticism. But once again, you see AI working its way into data collection, capturing data, storing it, activating it. A lot of the stuff I mentioned earlier, the conversation I'm going to have this afternoon with the marketing group, like, is it now data's time to shine? And I think I said this a week or two ago. I think data was waiting for AI, and this is uh, another case of that from the folks at Telium.
Let me ask you a question about this before we move on.
Yep.
What the heck is zero copy segment builder? Like, what is that?
Zero copy is the idea. So Salesforce Data Cloud is where they talk about zero copy the most, which is that the tools go to Data Cloud to get the data, but they don't actually move the data.
Oh, zero copy as in like duplicate, not copy as in words.
Right.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So got it. So like it's avoiding the age old clone, like a copy of a copy of a copy problem.
Copy of a copy of a copy. Like, okay, so like we've seen this happen probably if you use Google Docs, right? You copy something, you copy something, you copy something, and it puts it right in the title. Copy of this, copy of that. Um, it's to keep the data in one place, so where it's unified and where it's governed, and not so you don't take the data out of that sort of central unified spot and then have it in all the other applications. And then if there's a change to that data, you have to worry about whether it gets changed in all those other places. The
All right,
zero
that makes
copy
sense.
is it stays there, and you don't have to worry about whether it's controlled, whether it's expired, all that stuff. It's a it's
I
a,
could
it's a good idea.
Yeah, I could be cynical about it and wonder out loud, which I will now do, why zero copy is a term when we've had APIs for years and years and years. But okay, sure, let's give it a name and continue to not copy copies of copies of copies of data. It makes sense conceptually. That's interesting. I love the marketing of some of this stuff, right? Like as a marketer, a copywriter, I just like some of this stuff is just super fun to look at and be like, what are they thinking? This is
Well, if
crazy.
that's the case, you're going to like this last one from the
All
trade
right.
desk. A couple weeks ago, Meta talked about how they're basically going to take over the creative of a lot of the ad campaigns on the Meta platforms. And like, you don't have to make creative anymore. You're just going to tell us what your stuff does and put some basic rules in place. And we're going to do the creative for you, to the chagrin of many small agencies who make a living creating social media ads. Um, and you see a generative AI creative offering from the trade desk, and the name Rembrandt.
Is that a play on Rembrandt
I believe
or
that is a play.
Remember?
I believe that is a play on Rembrandt
Hmm.
and brand.
Okay. What's it do? Do we know?
They call it embedding brands within digital content. So a part of the issue with the AI generated creatives is people have brand guidelines, and
Mm-hmm.
people have want brand fidelity. And if you have ask AI to go and do something and you say use my color, use my logo, you may or may not get what you want.
Yep.
And so the kind of next generation of this stuff is to build it with some brand guardrails in place so that the brand is ported into whatever you're creating, and the brand is authentic and it meets all your requirements, whatever. But the rest of the ad is sort of AI generated, because that's sort of been the I'm not going to let AI build my creative. It doesn't know my brand. It doesn't get the colors right. It doesn't do the funky capitals we use or whatever. So that sounds sort of trivial, but it's actually for a lot of people who are out there putting a lot of social media ads on B2C platforms in particular. A lot of them struggle with creative because they don't have the resources to do it. And so for any platform that can come across and make ads, whether for social or for programmatic, who can do the brand lift part and not have to uh, find the designer and resource the creative and go through the rounds, it sounds like a small thing, but it's actually a huge help to a lot of those small companies that are advertising on those platforms.
Yeah. The best thing I've seen. in that is honestly it's just Canva. Canva's I don't know what tier you have to be in, but Canva has the brand kit or whatever the heck they call it, and you can load it with all your. You can have multiple brands. You can load it with colors, logos, everything. And when you start a new project, you basically just pick the kit, and it will just transform the thing so it's brands. Let's call it brand safe. It might not be brand optimized. It's not great at optimizing colors, but it's pretty useful. I can totally see a Sora or a Veo or something like that having brand kits, or maybe it's part of the prompt injection. Maybe it's like something you save as a part of a prompt, and you sort of say, "Hey, create a video of whatever, but use this brand kit." Could be even potentially done in instructions. I'm not sure how. That's a good one to test actually. Testing a GPT, either a project or a gem with kind of a JSON structured brand kit is actually a heck of an idea. Ooh, I'm gonna have to try that one.
Here we go. Mark's
Yeah,
weekend is now booked.
booked.
Don't ask him to go out for a drink or anything. That's what he's
Yeah,
doing.
no, I'm done. I'm going to be an AI. I have another good AI thing that we can talk about. I got this from somebody at SMX. Been thinking about like how to improve, how not improve, but how to get the AI to write more like me or you or whatever.
Hmm.
And the idea was to apply the concept of a genome to it, right? So think about like if you're right, if an AI analyzed everything you've written, like say all your MarTech articles, and you fed it to an AI and said, "Hey, create a structured writing genome for me," it would come up with something very structured that you could then take and deploy as part of your GPT writing strategy, which I thought was a great idea. So I've done it, and it's really cool. It's actually really neat to see like how it breaks down. I fed it like 3 or 4 articles that I had posted in the past on MarTech, just sort of like for a formal thing. I think I'm also going to do the same thing. I'm going to take some of my best performing LinkedIn posts,
Hmm.
and I'll have it create a LinkedIn writing genome. And then I think what you can do is you can create like one GPT with all the genomes in it as attachments, and then you can actually tell the GPT like, "Hey, this is for LinkedIn, or this is a post for my personal blog, my personal Substack, or for MarTech." Apply the appropriate DNA basically to the writing thing. I thought it was a really interesting concept.
Yeah, that was. I think when Pandora debuted, wasn't it the Music Genome Project they called it that they were basing
Yeah,
it,
it was. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That was
yeah,
same thing. Like, what are you into for music? And I remember if you opened it up, it was like you like female voices and
yeah,
acoustic guitars, and then like I don't know that much about music, but it knew a lot more about what I liked about music. And I'm someone
yeah,
who feels like I don't have any taste in music at all. Like you can't pin me
yeah.
down, but it
I
tried.
think yeah. Well, and I think what's interesting about what you just said is if you took 3 or 4 of your articles, it would probably spit back at you things that you don't realize you're doing, which I think is also interesting as again like a training and learning tool. Like, oh, I don't. I'll tell you one of the most interesting things that's happened as I started the Playbook Broken podcast. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, whatever. Um, is when I take the video and put it into Descript, and it shows me all of the kind of redundant words. You see like all like I say like all the time apparently, or or right. I do it all the time, and you can see it because it highlights it, and it's shockingly horrifying to see how you speak in kind of structured. Kind of is another one I say all the time. So I'm like trying to train myself to like catch myself before I go into those patterns. Also slow down. Like anyway, look, I think all this stuff is super super useful, super fun.
We mentioned
Um,
Seismic's role playing sales agent and the tool that you built. That's when you talk about like it showed you Gong does that right with
yeah,
sales calls. Like what are the dead air? What's the wasted words?
yeah.
Who's talking more? It's a similar thing, and it's obvious to apply that to sales. But even the writing genome is sort of the same thing. It's coaching writers instead of coaching salespeople.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that the short term bang for AI is kind of coaching and productivity and like sort of self generated like curious learning that can accelerate your work, like make you almost have more superpowers yourself. I think companies are searching desperately for like how do we do more with less people. I don't know that we're there yet. I've been working on a couple of different use cases that you'd sort of go, oh, AI is going to handle this like a champ, and it just turns out to be way more chaotic, way crazier. Like the human like the existing human processes are built for humans, not for AIs. So like like how do you so I keep saying like so how do you restructure the processes and then apply AI versus apply AI and try to adapt the existing process. I think that's going to be a really big challenge for companies who are looking to accelerate, especially like established companies, startups, whatever, they'll do whatever they want. But like if you're an established company with existing processes and you're like, let's just apply AI and go faster, I'm starting to see cracks in the armor on that's just not going to work the way they think it's going to work.
Yeah, I think last week I mentioned my attempts at automating part of newsletter creation.
Right.
And you would think, oh, this is simple. We do this every day here. And it's not. it's,
Yeah.
it's not even kind of the opposite of Melissa Reeves' experience where we started today, where she, it got her 70% of the way there and it sped up the whole process. I can't get 70% of the way there at the newsletter. And as I try to get there, it ends up taking longer than just putting the
Yeah.
newsletter together. So
yeah, and the question that I would ask you is, do we need to redesign the process? Do we, are we gonna, if we want to accelerate production and increase quality, it might be the process that's broken or inefficient or needs redesigning rather than AI's inability to match the manual process that we've built. Because I know like our process includes a whole bunch of stuff that like we probably could redesign those and then accelerate those. So I think that's the key, right? And I think that's part of the challenge with anybody using platforms like Make or Zapier or N8N in particular, where you can build really sophisticated workflows and automations, but if you're going to mirror the existing ones and not redesign them, I think you're going to start to run into real logic problems that you just can't solve. Like this always goes to this person and this person does this thing that only they know how to do. Well, now you're stuck.
yeah,
Right. And
I
so,
mean, it's the simple. There's the process, right? But then there's the like what goes into the newsletter. It can't find me verbatim quotes from articles when I give it the URL to say, hey, can you do
right,
the this is what they said section of the newsletter where we put quotes in? It's like, no, I can't look at that article and get a verbatim quote. And
right.
it's stunning for all that it can do that it can't go and find 2 lines in an article and just give them back to me.
So I had that experience yesterday. I was trying to wrap up the Matthew K Playbook Broken podcast, and I just wanted just a simple thing. I was like, all right, I don't have a lot of time. Let me just have AI grab the transcript, write me something, and I had it all staged, ready to go. And I'm looking at this quote, going, I don't think he said that. So I copied the quote, pasted it. It wasn't there. So I said to the AI, "Why'd you make this quote up?" Well, I was trying to get the spirit of what they said, but in your voice. I was like, no, like don't play around like that. Rewrite this with the quote, and it just couldn't do it. It would not. It refused. It was like, why are you refusing? Just like you have the quote, it's right there, it's in transcript.
Yeah.
You thought it was important enough to pull it out, use it.
Yeah.
And so I had to actually force fix it, which is
It's funny that we've run into the same little like bug in 2 different use cases. That is like, you can read the article. Why can't you just repeat back 2 lines to me?
Yeah. I mean, it's the nature of what it is. I think that's the issue with the LLMs is that they are predicting words. They're not. They can understand instructions, but the fundamental way it works is how it works, and so it's going to do stuff like that. It really does put the onus on humans to sort of go, is this right? Am I? What did I read this article? I read something this morning that I thought was really interesting. Where did I read that? I don't know, but the article is basically saying like it's our responsibility to check these AIs. Oh, it was a New York Times article. It was a New York Times article about power of AI, and this person had written a piece, and they wrote it first in AI and realized how wrong it was, and that was kind of what the piece was all about. And that's it's a writer's responsibility. Like that, you're hired to write today. In the future, and this is what the article is about, was like, okay, what jobs will exist in the future? It'll be like content architect instead of writer. Because at some point, the LLMs will continue to improve and be good enough to write the content. But it's still going to need a human to direct what it's writing. I want you to write an article about this. It's almost like being the director of the analogy holds. Like a director of a movie doesn't architect operators of AIs is going to become probably that's a job in the future, right? The same way a creative director today directs the creative but doesn't actually do the photo shoot or draw the pictures. Like they have the vision of the creative output. I think that a finance person or a writer or a video editor is going to direct the AI to do the actual work, which is a little bit head spinning, I think.
Yep. All right, we want to do what's in your feed.
Yeah, let's do what you want to go first. Or me to go first.
No, I'll go first.
All right, do it.
I will admit that I had something at the top of my feed, and I went and accidentally refreshed it because I wanted to show it, which
Oh man.
was an AI overview of someone who was evaluating functionality of, I believe it was email platforms, and the AI overview, the person who wrote the post said it lied. I think
Oh.
most of us would call it a hallucination. Um, it had a bunch of features in this tool that didn't actually exist.
Oh, I saw this. I thought this
That
was really. I
do
think I actually
exist
saw.
out in the wild and other tools, but do not exist in this tool. Yeah, so verify. Like,
Is this post suggesting though that like that does this prompt actually like I doubt you can stop an LLM from hallucinating because that's not how it works. So have you tried what they wrote yet? I'm just seeing this now.
no, I mean they were just saying that that the AI overview when they were asking about email uh, functionality in certain email platforms, the AI overview that they got back. So it wasn't even really a conversation with an LLM, as in they went to Gemini or ChatGPT. It was a
I
search.
gotcha. Yeah.
The AI overview said that this tool had features that it does not have. So something you probably would have figured out at some point in the process, but you got to verify. And it's a problem, right? It's a flaw, and it almost you would like to think that people understand the technology enough so that when they see that the AI overview told me you had this, it's not really the company's fault. If
Yeah.
you get a salesperson on the horn and you talk about it and they say, well, actually, we don't do that, it wasn't the vendor that gave the misinformation. It's not their fault.
The trust issue here is really significant because people don't even know, like the average person doesn't know how LM works, so they're just gonna they're gonna trust what they're being told the same way they trust an article from a fishy website. So I don't know that the problem is any different, but the speed at which you get information is what's changed. That's yeah. I don't know. What
So
else you
this
got in your
is
feed?
on my feed here. This is not the case that I was talking about, but here's another one. Here's a prompt that can hopefully stop hallucinations. Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
um, what's the complaint about younger sales reps? They rush to sound experienced. Yeah, I think that's a problem with everybody who's new to their career.
Yeah,
Trying to sound like they know more than they know. Friday LinkedIn in the summer can get a little
a little wonky, huh?
uh, information overload right there. 14 open decks, 27 Slack threads.
Jesus.
I'm reading a book. I mentioned this on LinkedIn earlier in the week about the effect of our digital world on our brains, which were basically developed for the Stone Age and haven't really changed that much. And it's horrifying, number one. But it got me thinking about things like the full stack marketer and switching between apps and all of the information. And this is another reason I mentioned earlier. I think data is data's time is here because of AI. The human brain just can't. It just can't take all the data feeds that we get on a daily basis and do anything with them. So, um,
What book
yeah,
is that?
it is called "Our Stone Age Brains in the Digital World."
Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah,
I'm reading.
MIT Press, kind of boring, but interesting, but not
Yeah, interesting. I'm reading a book called Techopoly, and it's from 1993, and it's an amazing book. It's really, really good. Jacob Sanders told me about it, and so I picked it up, and I've highlighted so much. I might as well highlight the whole darn book. It's pretty crazy. The book was written in '93, and it's really describing. It was warning against what potentially could happen in the future, and it's amazing how right. I try and recall the guy's name, and I can't. It's amazing how right the author was. All right, what's on my feed? Let's see. Actually, let's refresh and see what's going on here. So let's refresh. What's on the feed? Oh, look, MarTech. Oh, this is our new thingamajig. Our new little
Yep.
video deals,
Yeah,
huh?
we've published a Salesforce Agent Force deep dive. We've got a pretty comprehensive page on the site that um, covers Agent Force. Basically, it's a page that we
Nice.
update when there's new news. We had Notebook LM go and create a podcast, a feature I know you and I both love,
Yeah.
and then publish that to YouTube. So basically, you can get like a tour of everything you need to know about Agent Force. You can get it on YouTube. You can get it on the site. On the site, we've also got the ability to ask our MarTech bot anything you want about Agent Force and get an answer.
Amazing. That's cool. All right, I'm happy to see that first on my feed. I got Gerhardt. What's he talking about? The result. I got the job. It's a promotion for Exit 5. If you like that kind of thing, have at Exit 5. Cool. Jay's celebrating Des Brown. Email senders. Instagram is bad for my health, but what about Outlook? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. This is from 2024, though, so I don't know. TikTok not banned, right? News of the day.
Yes, the ongoing TikTok saga. They're just gonna keep dragging it out until the bags of cash land on the right doorstep. I think at this point.
Amazing. Christian Banash, founder of something. Most agencies. Turns out it's not true that referrals come from happy clients. Where do they come from then? Referrals aren't from current or past clients. They're from people who simply know who you are and have a good impression of your brand, even if they've never worked for you. But it's brand again.
Yep.
This has, that's interesting. I don't know that I fully agree with this, but it's provocative.
Yeah.
One of the best things about LinkedIn is finding provocative things and then arguing about it. I don't know. He's got a cool image here too. This feels like
it's social media in a nutshell, right? Whether it's
right.
your B2B or your B2C.
And here's Jacob. We mentioned him earlier. Jacob, we're on the phone with him in 8 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know. I have the patience of a squirrel at this minute. Morton Sorensen. Kaltura, what's this one? Class Desot, career update. He's starting as sales director at Kaltura. Congratulations, brother. I don't know him, but he's first level connection. Isn't it funny how many first level connections you just have no idea? Like, there you go, social media again. Let's throw them.
It's like was I in the mood that day to go and connect with someone I don't know?
Yeah. There's a whole other episode on looking at what's in your LinkedIn message feed. By the way, let's just as a quick aside, have you ever seen, where do I go? Where do I find? Here you go. Here, watch this. I have one spam message. I've never cleaned this out. How do you have spam messages in your LinkedIn spam thing?
I don't think so.
So that what that means is all these cold outreaches are not considered spam, right? Like when you get a million messages from people.
Yeah, maybe the spam is like the people who've automated. That's the thing that I find annoying lately about LinkedIn is someone connects with you and you accept the connection and then they have the kind of auto thing set up, like you're immediately invited to follow their newsletter or something.
Yeah. There's systems that do that, right? Like there's it's like $10 a month. You just automate your whole LinkedIn life away. I will talk about this in the future. And you and I have been talking about this. I think the future is the opposite of automation. I think the future is handcrafted, human generated, AI powered for sure. But I think we're going to see, people really respond to, hopefully things like this, just actual conversation, actual humans connecting. At least that's what I'm betting on, but we'll see.
Yep.
I think that's what we got for today. We're going to have to figure LinkedIn out. It's frustrating. Even YouTube, honestly, we're live on YouTube, but it's not, it doesn't show up the way I thought it would show up. So we have tech problems that we got to solve. If anybody ever sees this and they want to help us with it, that'd be good, but we're going to have to figure that out. And LinkedIn is just weird. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I should probably figure it out.
And you're on vacation next week, right?
Yeah, I'm gone. So I think we'll take a break and then
be on the other side of 4th of July.
Can't wait.
All right.
See you.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.